Hello, I'm David Rose, and thanks for stopping by for this Washington's Most Wanted Facebook update in partnership with Crime Stoppers. Starting with a terrifying home invasion robbery caught on a Ring doorbell camera. Now, I'm about to show you three suspects. They approach the home, kick in the door, and then steal cash, jewelry, and firearms. So take a look. This video is from February 11th in the south part of the Beacon Hill neighborhood near South Graham Street in Seattle. Detectives are asking for your help to identify these suspects. All three were armed with handguns. There were 4 adults and a toddler inside that home.
Once they got inside, they rounded everybody up, shoved them into different bedrooms as they were ransacking the house. But the sad thing is, and the scary part, is 2 Glocks and an AR-15. Numerous magazines and ammunition were also taken. So these 3 armed guys now have 3 more weapons that are loose on the street, stolen weapons.
One woman inside the home jumped off the balcony to escape, twisting her ankle, but nobody else was hurt. The suspect with the husky build in the light gray Nike sweatshirt was seen approaching the house before the robbery to check it out. Seattle police say the suspect with him in the yellow jacket had a rose tattoo on his hand. If you recognize any of their clothes or if you can identify them, please submit a tip right now to Crime Stoppers of Puget Sound for a cash reward of up to $1,000. It is anonymous. You can text the information through the P3 Tips app on your cell phone, or you can call 1-800-222-TIPS. King County Sheriff's detectives need your help to identify this tricky thief who is dressing up like a mail carrier and even has a U.S. postal key to get inside an apartment complex in Kenmore. He stole tons of mail from the residents there. Detectives say the same suspect has done it here twice, first in late October and again last month, where he filled a big black trash bag with people's mail, which included credit cards. Now, detectives say he used one of the stolen cards to purchase an unusual book from a store in Lake Forest Park. He spent $165 to buy Grind Show, the selected writings of William Lindsay Gresham. So that clue alone may help you identify him. And the USPS style jacket is not legitimate. The real jackets don't have names on them. But the key the crook is using is definitely real.
We don't know where he got his key from, and that's the tricky point. I'm certain that among the trade of mail thieves and others, there's probably a black market of sorts where these keys are traded or found, and we're not sure how he acquired it. That's going to be something we look forward to finding out.
Detectives say he's white, in his 50s, with gray hair, and he wore a dark shirt with a yellow coiled snake logo on it at the bookstore last October. So if you recognize him, submit his name right now through the P3 Tips app on your cell phone or call the Crime Stoppers hotline, 1-800-222-TIPS. It's anonymous, and you will be paid a cash reward of up to $1,000 if your tip leads to his arrest. If this woman comes into your store saying she bought chicken for a church event and it went bad and she wants her money back, do not believe her. Call 911. This is Jasmine Willie, an accused prolific scam artist with 7 warrants for her arrest. According to Pierce County court documents, she has defrauded stores in King, Pierce, and Thurston County for around $100,000. And detectives say she's using kids and religion as part of her ploy. In Normandy Park, the police chief says Willie pulled the bad chicken scam on a QFC.
She's going into stores and claiming that she's been wrong somehow. Either her church group bought food and the food ended up making people sick, or she'll claim that she came in and bought a cake for her kid's birthday and they misspelled the name. A lot of times she has her kids with her, or has kids with her while she's committing these frauds. And she convinces employees to give her refunds that she's not entitled to. From a grocery store in the Normandy Park area, she got over $3,000. So she's very good at what she does. She frequently will stay on the phone the entire time, and she pretends like she's talking to the store manager, and she's very convincing.
At a 7-Eleven in Lakewood last year, detectives say her chicken scam failed. So then police say Willie went right on to claim that she bought 13 muffins that were bad. Well, the store never has that many muffins to sell at one time, so they recognized it as a scam and refused to give her any money, so she left. Detectives say she's pulled her scam as recently as last week at a sandwich shop in Lacey. She's also wanted for theft in Pierce County after detectives say she stole more than $3,000 worth of merchandise from a Walmart in Puyallup.
She's extremely difficult to find. We believe she's living in motels in the Tacoma area. On the video, you'll see her car that she normally drives. It's a 2004 Lincoln Town Car. It's gray in color. She drives that pretty frequently. She's been very busy. It's not just an issue here in Normandy Park, it's throughout the Puget Sound region.
Detectives say the license plate number on her town car is BRV 7828. Jasmine Willie is 29 years old. If you see her in your store, call 911 and then contact Crime Stoppers to submit the information through the P3 Tips app or the hotline. There is a cash reward of up to $1,000 if you could help police find her. Again, watch out for her in grocery stores or any places that sell retail and call it in right away if you see her. Tonight, Pierce County Sheriff detectives need your help to identify an armed robbery suspect who is on a crime spree. I'm dubbing him the Beaver Fan Bandit because of that Oregon State University vest and hoodie with the school's bright orange O on the chest. He wore that when he robbed the Columbia Bank on Meridian Avenue East in Puyallup on February 1st at 9:30 a.m.
He milled about inside the front of the bank for quite a while, and he's just waiting for somebody to help him. The teller couldn't help him right away, and he's in there for a couple minutes until they finally help him.
Detectives say he slid a note to the teller saying he had a gun. He never showed one. The clerk gave him some cash, and he jogged out to a Ford Edge and then drove off. Now, detectives say the same suspect robbed 2 gas stations in Spanaway just one night before this robbery. And at that time, he drove a white Chevy Silverado pickup truck. And then he switched vehicles to the Ford Edge to rob the second gas station minutes later and the bank the next morning.
We're really concerned that this guy's going to keep doing robberies until he's caught. We want the community to be aware. We want you guys to give us tips and help our detectives put this guy behind bars.
Detectives say he's about 6 feet tall, weighs around 220 pounds. Take a good look at his face as he looked right into the camera at the bank. If you recognize the Beaver Fan Bandit, submit his name through the P3 Tips app to Crime Stoppers of Tacoma Pierce County or call 1-800-222-TIPS. It's anonymous. You will be paid a cash reward of up to $1,000 if your tip identifies him. Well, now surveillance video from a food bank in Mount Lake Terrace showing an auto thief. Detectives need your help to identify this guy. He stole a van from the Concern for Neighbors Food Bank on 48th Avenue West and 229th Place Southwest last Saturday afternoon. The van was found and returned to the food bank on Tuesday, but detectives still need to know the suspect's name because he spray painted and vandalized that van.
I believe if somebody knows him, they will instantly recognize him, even with the mask on, from how he is.
Well, Crime Stoppers of Puget Sound is offering a cash reward of up to $1,000 if you can identify him. Call the hotline or text your tip and any photos you have through the P3 Tips app on your cell phone. It is anonymous. Seattle police are hoping that the way a robbery suspect walks will help you identify him. So take a look at this surveillance video showing the suspect limping into the Smart Food Service store on 4th Avenue South. This was on February 11th. Detectives say he hid several packages of meat and spices inside his coat, and then he tried to leave without paying. When employees blocked his path, officers say he pulled out a pocket knife with the blade open and threatened them. And then he waved a can of pepper spray in their faces. Fortunately, the can malfunctioned and did not work. Well, he dropped the meat, and then he headed outside to that waiting green 2000 VW Beetle with an unknown driver behind the wheel.
He's got some kind of handicap where he limps with his right leg and his right foot turns in quite a bit when he walks, so easily distinguished. And here's a guy that turns a simple shoplift into a robbery. Just by the fact that he produces a knife and causes that fear. So another one we want to get off the street.
In addition to the limp, Seattle police describe him as a dark-skinned black man in his 40s to 50s, 5'6" to 5'9" tall. He's missing teeth on the right side of his mouth. That information came from store employees who have had problems with him in the past, stealing from them. If you know his name, Crime Stoppers of Puget Sound will pay you a cash reward of up to $1,000. Submit the tip right now through the P3 Tips app or call the hotline. Well, now for some good news. Thanks to tips from you and some very diligent work by law enforcement, a robbery suspect is in jail tonight. DOC officers in the Southwest Community Response Unit, Thurston County Sheriff's Narcotics Team deputies, and U.S. Marshals arrested Sonny Ramirez Wells on Wednesday at the home of a family member in the Nisqually area. He was located thanks to Washington's most wanted viewer tips to Crime Stoppers of the South Sound. Ramirez Wells was booked into the Thurston County Jail, where he's being held without bail for robbery first degree while armed with a deadly weapon. Lacey police say he and his brother robbed a barista at a coffee stand at gunpoint. Sonny was out on bail at the time of that robbery after he had been previously arrested for an attempted armed robbery in which detectives say he fired a shot at a clerk working in a gas station. And a motorhome parked on the side of the street in Seattle's Ballard neighborhood is where domestic violence suspect Stephen Berger was arrested on Tuesday. Detectives in King County's Criminal Warrants Unit say your tips to Crime Stoppers of Puget Sound helped them locate him.
We featured Stephen Berger in November of last year, and Mr. Berger had violated a DV no contact order with his girlfriend. After assaulting her, he had sent her over 100 text messages and calls, and warrants were issued for his arrest. Thanks to outstanding tips, we were able to locate him. They provided some outstanding detail about this stovepipe sticking out of an old motorhome. Our detectives found it, did some surveillance, and they have him in custody.
Berger had several warrants for his arrest in King County, Snohomish County, and Bellevue. He's being held in the King County Jail now on $30,000 bail. Those arrests bring the total number of fugitives you have helped catch to 1,199. If you want to take a look at all the cases featured tonight and all year long, go to catchwmw.com.
The Challenger 7 were aware of the dangers, but overcame them and did their jobs brilliantly.
I want to take you back in time in hopes of jarring your memory. Think back to where you were one day after the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded. It was January 28, 1986, killing all 7 crew members on board. The very next day, Bremerton police say a mother and her 4-year-old daughter were strangled in their home in Bremerton by an unknown killer. So detectives want you to think back to what you were doing and where you were at that time. They have new DNA evidence that could help them solve this double murder, but there is a missing piece that is keeping justice at bay, and that's where you come in. So tonight, Washington's Most Wanted's Olivia LaVoice reveals the one thing investigators need from you now.
This was her 3rd birthday. She loved it.
Little snippets of treasured time every parent cherishes.
Daddy-daughter little kissing stuff, that was one little ritual. It's just priceless.
Kenny Hale wanted to capture every moment with his daughter Adrian.
Just the funny faces that she would make when she was a toddler.
But tangled within the memories of pure joy.
Her smile is something that can never be replaced. As I'm going through them and I think I can make it, I can't look anymore, and I will just close it up.
Are memories darker than most could ever imagine.
Something's wrong. What's wrong? Okay, they're laying on the floor. Something's wrong.
This is a nightmare, and I want to wake up.
The mother and her daughter is laying on the floor at the house, at my neighbor's house.
You think of the most horrific act that could happen is somebody coming into your home and killing you and your child inside of your own home in the middle of the night. You know, it's just that nightmare scenario.
As detectives stepped inside this home, they quickly realized this was a crime unlike anything the town of Bremerton had ever seen.
This is a special kind of evil.
Inside were the bodies of 27-year-old Nikki Anderson and her 4-year-old daughter Adrian.
Just so many things that you just keep going over and over and over in your head as far as what happened and how it happened.
Just a day earlier, Kenny was at the apartment with his daughter Adrian and his ex Nikki. The exes were dedicated to co-parenting. It wasn't uncommon for the 3 of them to spend time together, especially as Nikki and Adrian were preparing to soon move to San Diego to be with Nikki's new fiance.
I was saying my goodnights, and I was telling her that I'll see her the next day.
As Kenny went to leave that night, 4-year-old Adrian asked if she could go home with him.
I said, not tonight, babe. And I said, maybe next time. Gave her a hug, and as I was getting in my car and I looked out my passenger window and I seen her in the window, you know, waving, saying, you know, goodbye. And who would have thought that it would have been forever? What would have happened had I did let her come home with me that night?
The next day was a Thursday, January 30th, 1986. Several people came by the duplex looking for Nikki, some even multiple times that day, including a coworker, a friend of sorts, and a furniture salesman. But only one person actually tried to open the front door, changing the course of their life forever.
I turned around and walked away, and I thought I heard something.
Kenny had returned to the apartment to see his daughter as scheduled.
I listened, and I did hear like some whimpering, and I grabbed the doorknob, and it wasn't locked, and I pushed open, and I met with resistance when I pushed the door open, and as it turned out, it was Adrian's leg.
As his eyes adjusted to the dark, Kenny could see the body of his little girl Adrian and Nikki. The sound he'd heard was Nikki's 8-month-old son she had with her fiance who lived out of state. Investigators estimate the baby had been in his playpen just feet away from the bodies of his mother and sister for 20 hours. The crime scene showed a violent struggle between Nikki and the assailant. It appeared the killer pinned curtains together and strangely removed a cushion from the couch and put it inside the playpen along with Nikki's infant son. Nothing was stolen. Valuables were left in plain sight. Investigators believe the crime was sexually motivated with Nikki as the target. Both mother and child had been strangled to death.
She just had a smile that just broke your heart when she smiles.
For Kenny, the last image of his little girl is one he'd do anything to get out of his mind.
She suffered drastically. It was hard. I thought I was gonna get through this without doing this.
The discovery, the murders, changed everything.
I was bitter for a while. I cursed God. I was bitter at God. And I said she was innocent. How could you let something like this happen to an innocent child?
Kenny was quickly ruled out as a suspect. Years, then decades went by with no answers. Sometimes Kenny would get a phone call from a new detective saying the case was reopened. But he had little faith until recently.
I just had a different feeling with Marty.
For a long time, he felt like nobody cares. Nobody cares about my little girl.
Enter in Detective Marty Garland.
I'm a kind of person that likes a puzzle, and this is, kind of the ultimate puzzle, right? Trying to figure out what nobody has been able to figure out before you.
Now Detective Garland says the puzzle of this case is almost complete. He's just missing one significant piece.
I could say, in essence, we've figured out who our bad guy is. We just don't know what his name is.
Numerous items from Nikki's apartment have been processed by the lab, including bed sheets and the blue bathrobe Nikki wore that night. Detective Garland has what every cop wants, DNA believed to belong to the killer. But it's not that simple. The sample isn't complete enough to run in the DNA offender database or to use genetic genealogy. Instead, Detective Garland has to directly compare the DNA samples he collects to persons of interest.
That's all we need is that name so that we can get that person's DNA and do a one-to-one comparison.
He's looked into known serial killers and collected DNA from all the men close to Nikki. So far, no match. But Garland says he knows this much. The killer, whoever he is diabolical.
On average, for a healthy adult to be strangled to death usually takes in excess of 4 minutes. You think about doing something with that much force, that intimate with somebody, you've got 4 minutes to realize what you're doing and to stop doing it. But not only did he do that to Nikki, he then did this to this absolutely the purest of pure 4-year-old baby.
He says it doesn't appear Nikki was expecting company that night, but when the killer showed up at her door, it seems he was let in willingly.
It's this strange mix of, it's not somebody so close to her that it becomes an obvious suspect, but it is somebody close enough to her that she put a certain amount of trust in this person, and they betrayed it in the most heinous way.
Why? Why Adrian? Why my daughter?
There are no answers that can alleviate Kenny's pain, but having some sense of justice would perhaps make it easier to soak in the beautiful memories without the dark ones lingering.
I never stopped thinking about her. And not only her, but I think about her mom too. I look at Nikki and I just say she was a beautiful person that didn't deserve this to happen like that.
So again, I'm urging you to think back to late January 1986, right after the space shuttle explosion. Who did you know at that time that could have committed this pure act of evil in Bremerton? Nikki and Adrienne deserve an answer. Kenny Hale deserves some peace. Give Bremerton police a name to investigate. If you really think about it and you listen to your gut instinct, you may know who did this. And remember, you will remain completely anonymous when you submit a tip to Crime Stoppers of Puget Sound. They will pay you a $1,000 cash reward for information that leads to an arrest. But tonight, I am upping that amount because this monster needs to be caught. This crime cannot go unpunished. So I will personally give you another $5,000 cash if you can identify the killer and it leads to his arrest. You will receive $6,000 cash just for doing the right thing by coming forward. You can text your tips through the P3 Tips app on your cell phone or call 1-800-222-TIPS. So that's a look at some of the cases featured tonight on Washington's Most Wanted. To join me for the rest, I'll be on at 11 o'clock on Q13 Fox, and Saturday night at 9:30 on Joe TV and 10:30 on Q13 Fox and 10:30 on our partner stations in Yakima, Tri-Cities, and Spokane. It takes all of us to make sure these criminals have nowhere left to hide.